What are we talking about today? This topic.
The topic is, well, it's our first one, so we're going to focus on, well, careers, right? That's the most fundamental thing we've got that keeps the cog spinning. So we're going to be focusing on work, purpose, the emotions around work, the baggages around work, how do you balance it, and things like that. What does work mean to you? Is it something you do or something that's part of your identity?
You're starting off with a big one. That's a tough question. I think for me personally, work is not who I am. It's not part of my identity. That's like two separate worlds for me. Like, identity obviously is who I am, what I relate to. Work is separate to that.
Do you think it's easy to mix work and identity together?
Yeah, I think work can definitely very easily become who you are. Like, you can easily define it.
Yeah.
So, which is fine. If that's something that you feel like is okay to you, then that's fine. But I know a lot of people are not, working in jobs that they really enjoy or that fulfills them. So I don't know, that part could be tricky. So if you really found the job that you wanted to do, and that becomes like your whole world, and that's who you are, and everything sort of surrounds that, then that's fine. I think for a lot of people, work is not like their purpose, it's not their meaning for life. So
it's kind of a means to an end a little bit, isn't it? Like, because they still have their, quote unquote work, but then they still do things outside of work, and they just use that as like a routine or something, maybe.
I don't know if I should ask you the same question.
If you want to.
But
depends how long we're going.
No, I think it's an interesting question to ask. What does work mean?
I think the interpretation of it is really important. Some people will see work as like something I get to do, or I have to do. It feels like they're imposing it on themselves. But some people feel or see work as it's nothing. It's like enjoyment, something that fulfills them. And I think the only work for me, the biggest way to see work as something that's fulfilling and enjoying is if it's something you actually do enjoy, rather than some people really don't have a choice, to be fair. They actually have to. They've got bills to pay, they've got things to do, we can't really take the risks that younger people can technically take. So we are privileged in that position, I think, in terms of a time perspective. So that does kind of affect what work kind of means to you as well. But for me personally, I think work is something that I have to do, something that I generally care about as number one, but also passionate about as well. Because I want it to be impactful, I want it to help society in some way, I want it to make a difference. It can't just be something where like I'm doing the work for someone else to then reap the rewards of. Like at the end of the day, I go home and I think about it, my work just being used for someone else's purpose rather than my own. Like, what can I do to benefit? Probably in a bit of a selfish way, to be fair, but I think that's where you have to prioritize your fulfillment as well as something you prioritize and have something that you can have an impact on in society, rather than just being like a cog in the machine kind of thing.
I think it's so easy to feel like a cog in the machine.
Especially with how things are so fast moving nowadays. Very easy to slip into that.
Yeah.
You kind of lose yourself as well. So I think that's where part of the identity thing comes in, where you clear enough to know where you're going, but also knowing that work is required. Like, you have to put some form of effort in to reap the reward yourself, whether it's your work with someone else or work for yourself.
So like, you should have asked each other this question before that. Why don't you tell them a little bit about what you do for work?
Oh, me. So I coach football. Well, at the moment I'm working in a school like a TA, more one-to-one support, learning help, so managing bits during the day, helping around the school. And then in the evenings, where it's my, like, I wouldn't call it a side hustle, but I would say my real passion where it comes from is football coaching. So I've been coaching for about 3 or 4 years. 3.5, just coming up to 4 years. Working with children from 5 all the way up to like 12, I'd say. I have covered a couple of 16 year-old sessions as well, so like under 16, under 15 level at some point. But football coaching has been the aim. It's not always been the aim, but it's something that came quite late on whilst I was studying at uni. But as a career, I see that as just a way of, in terms of helping society, is to develop kids, better players through sport, like educate them through sport. That's the phrase I now use, really. Yeah, and that's what I do. How about you?
So I work in finance, specifically insurance, which a lot of people don't know about. I think it's becoming more well known now, but at least when I was in uni or going through school, I didn't really know that it existed. The most I knew about finance banking. I'm a data scientist in insurance. So it's a new role for me at the moment. I've only been in the role for about a couple of months. Well, it's been up to 2 months now. But previous to that, I was an analyst, again, working with lots of data. Before that, I was a BI developer, so I've been in a few sort of tech roles. I guess IT/tech was not really something I wanted to get into. It was tough for me. Well, at uni I did maths and computer science, which is very, very broad. You could go into so much. But in my final year, that's when I came across sort of data, machine learning, that type of stuff in computer science. And that seemed to be what interested me the most out there reading. Not exactly what I was like, oh, this is my calling. This is what I definitely need to do. This is what's going to fulfill me or whatever. But that's kind of where I've landed.
How do you feel
about
your work? Do you think there's emotions, like, do the emotions help whilst you're working? Is it something you, like, yeah, I go to work every day thinking you're enjoying it, or is it just like...
It's like waves of emotion.
Yeah.
I think there's periods where I'm like super motivated and it feels like the work I'm doing is actually contributing to something. It's hard for me because like if my work doesn't get recognized, then I'm like, it's probably not important, the work I do, and then that sort of demotivates me a little bit, or I feel a bit like not as sort of encouraged. So yeah, if I'm doing sort of high profile work, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, this is interesting to me, and like there's loads of people sort of waiting on this kind of thing. But when you're working in such a large organization, it's hard for your work to be high profile. Like most of the time you're probably not going to be doing something that's sort of contributing to something like, you know, like
a big change.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It's going to be like loads of little things or little projects you'll be working on. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Sometimes I do wake up and I'm like, oh, I have to go to work.
Yeah.
But I think in a way it's good because it's sort of put me in a routine of like, hey, 9 to 5, this is where I'm going to work. How do you personally measure a productive day? And do you think that's helpful? Actually, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
What do you think about productivity? Like, as a topic, is it something that you feel is very important? It's about your work? Or
at the moment, I think it's very much overinflated in terms of how recent productivity has been. I think productivity is kind of like a spectrum of how productive you want to be in your day to day. It's relative to each person and how they gauge how productive you are. Some people might be different. Some people might be, what I'm trying to say is relative to each person. Someone might want to be like, they might have to do 10 things in a day is productive, which leads on to the point of how if it's healthy or unhealthy or not. Some person, couple of people might think, oh, 1 or 2 things and then they're done for the day, which is probably more effective, but is it enough to push the needle forward in whatever task you're doing, for example? It's probably the next question you'd have to ask yourself. For me, productivity is a level of satisfaction and enjoyment. Like if you're enjoying the task you're doing and you're satisfied with how much you've done, then I think that could be classed as a quote unquote productive day. But at the same time, it could be a productive day for you, but as an overall overall, looking at it, is it productive in terms of, are those tasks that you're doing, are they beneficial is another question. For example, you could do like 10 emails, you can go through all the 10 email inboxes, and that's your quote unquote productive because you're satisfied because the emails are done. Well, that's only technically one thing. But it's a sensitive term to use productive nowadays. It can be simplified, but I think a lot of people love to class productivity in different ways. What does it mean to you?
I think it really depends on my mood, how productive I am that day.
Yeah.
So there'll be certain days, I mean, I'm sure everyone can relate, but on a Monday, you just come off the back of the weekend, and depending what you've done on the weekend, you might feel like you really can't be bothered to do any work. Especially Monday mornings is a very slow morning for me in terms of getting any work done. And then it's really only in the afternoon that I start to sort of pick up the task that I need to do. So for me, there'll be days, but having said that, I'll still consider that a productive day for me, because even though I feel like there's not really much in me to give that day, I'm still trying my best. As long as I'm still trying my best, I feel like that's been a productive day for me.
Yeah.
However, I also do get on the flip side that when you're working in any job, you might have deadlines and things.
Yeah.
So even if you're not feeling, 100% or 35%, whatever it is, you still need to deliver to the deadline. You need to do those tasks, get them done in time. So it's tough. Like, you really do need to push through sometimes when you're really not feeling it. And I try not to push myself as much as I used to. And before I was like, almost to the point that it was sort of toxic. It's like if I wasn't spending every 5 minutes like completing a task, like, well, I haven't really done much.
Yeah.
And it's also just perspective. Like, if you have a massive list of things to do, what I like to do is sort of put like a effort time against each of these. Like, okay, realistically for this task I need like 30 minutes, I need an hour for this one, I need like an afternoon for this one, a couple of hours, and then I'll sort of just plan my day depending on like how much time I have, because I have meetings in between as well, so it really depends. Just making sure that I'm using my time effectively and I'm getting things done.
Do you find it difficult to balance meetings and admin side and your personal work during your work time?
100%. I'm quite thankful that I work in a technical team, so it's not very meeting heavy. But there will be phases where I'll have like 4 to 5 meetings in a day, and some of them I'll be like, yeah, that was very much needed. I feel like we needed to all touch base. But other meetings I'll be like, well, there's really point of that. That could have been over an email or a Teams message. So it does get tough. But I think it's also important to remember that you can always push back in things and say, look, I have lots on, I can't attend this meeting. And it's also having the support around you, like from your team. Like, if someone else can go in your place, that'd be great. Or if you have support from your manager.
It's the idea of just knowing when to say no, right? Because some things you just over accumulate because you say yes to everything because you've got all the energy in the world to do it. But at the same time, you finish the day drained, no energy, no mood like to do anything else other than your work, and you don't necessarily get to prioritize yourself if you just say yes to anything.
It's so easy to say yes and not even said yes as well. And then you get to 5 p.m. or for me, so 9 to 5, you get to the end of the day and you're like, well, I haven't really touched on everything I need to do. And then you just end up working late, and then that just sort of bleeds into your evening, and it's best.
It has a knock-on effect.
Exactly. And I think especially when you're new at company, it's hard to have the confidence to say no. You feel like, I think it's actually important to have more exposure and actually join into the meeting. So you might be more meeting heavy and not actually get anything done in like outside of the meetings, but it's better to do that in your early days. But once you sort of grow into the role a little bit, or really a little bit, or like you've got the grips on things, then you can say no to meetings, because the meetings will help you, one, to expand your network, get to know the teams, but also you just kind of know what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Keep in the loop kind of thing, right?
yeah, exactly. Which is a nice segue to, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome is a weird one. It is a weird one because it's something, well, for my role as a coach, like I have to deal with, or as a teacher, I have to deal with on a daily, because I have to take the mindset of, I'm not learning. I have to be learning every single day. But at the same time, there are kids that are dependent on me to pass on the knowledge that I know. And they assume, because as a student, you would assume that your teacher knows a lot of things, right? So they already view you from the lens of student to teacher. So already that I already have to question, like, okay, sometimes when I say certain things, is that actually, I have to really double check and say, is that really correct? Is that what I'm already saying to my kid who's learning this certain position, for example, in a game? 100% definitely have dealt with it, but encountered imposter syndrome. Whether I've dealt with it or not, I think that's an ongoing battle, to be honest. I think you don't ever truly completely deal with imposter syndrome until you've reframed that as I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly willing to give back the knowledge. So then that eventually that cycle of imposter syndrome dies down, because you then see, you just see it as like you're learning and you're just relaying that information back to whoever you're trying to teach, for example. So it's never really like a deficit of information. It's more like, or it's never really seen as a negative thing. It's more, you're learning. You're always going to be learning, but you're also improving as a person.
I think it's just exactly that you don't know things.
Yes, exactly.
Do know other things as well. It's not like you don't know anything.
Yes.
You don't know everything.
I mean, I think it also ruins the fun and the whole meaning behind knowing everything. If you know some things, but you don't know everything, it kind of incentivizes you to keep on learning and keep improving, because then, especially if you take the position of a teacher or a coach or a mentor, for example, you can then help other people become and develop better, and then that's another positive feedback loop.
Sort of emotional, so you keep on learning. It makes you realise how good it is. Have you experienced it more, like when you were new to a role or when you started any place? Or is it like a constant ongoing?
It's really interesting because it's definitely the most where you feel it the most when you're at the start of your career / journey, because you're on such a steep learning curve and you're progressing so quickly. You feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but people are still trusting you to do the job. So how do you handle it? It's like you said earlier, it's about accepting, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying. And it's understanding and accepting the fact that you are going to keep developing and improving every single day if you do the work. This is if you do the work. This is if you put the steps in. If you're doing the extras outside, you're learning stuff, you're reading about things, then that feeling of guilt. I think that's what imposter syndrome technically is. It's that guilt of not knowing everything. So you kind of work it off every single day by reading, taking the necessary steps of improvement. This kind of, we talked about emotions being involved in imposter syndrome and how we handle it. So I think my question to you is, do you think emotional intelligence is more important than skill in a modern day workplace?
I wouldn't say it's more foundational. Still, it's very much the key thing. Like, that's what everybody's looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Employee also looking at the end of the day. Emotional intelligence. So it's like just reading the room, like what's them to the room.
Yes.
Like just knowing what the like and you'll notice, especially in music, not just corporate life, like just in your job, you'll need to chit chat.
Yeah.
Like you just need to have these sort of, I would say, like sort of conversations. Like I just don't find it productive.
Well, small talk.
Yeah, I get back to
Yeah.
I think it's most of the time it's like, it's weird because there's the thing like, if you just run past someone, like, hey, how's it going? I would genuinely say like, yeah, it's going okay, things like that, but it's more like a how's it going? The way of saying hi.
Yeah, I've noticed that. To be fair. People just say how's it going for the sake of how's it going. Just saying hi. They don't actually stop and have the conversation. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the best points you made about that was reading the room. And that kind of recognizing different cues, facial expression, or the way people's information is, like how they explain certain things, is so important. And we talked about like how we deal with emotion and handling that. I think emotional intelligence is really important for not just reading other people, but recognizing the emotional cues on how you feel when something else is being said as well, because that might be a trigger, that might be it might invoke a thought in you, it might be oh, I didn't think about it like this way, I could have done it like this, or it might be a bit of okay, I think shame is a bit of a strong word, but at least it's invoking probably a negative reaction to how someone said something, or it's making you go, oh, I'm not as good at this as I thought, or someone else is better than me at this, how can I improve, kind of thing. So it's not only internal, there's also an external factors around emotional intelligence, but it's so vague and broad. It's a lot to learn on the go. Like, you're not only knowing how to handle yourself, you're also knowing how to deal with certain reactions and interactions from other people and not letting it affect you as much. But equally, if you focus on the narrow-minded approach of, well, not narrow-minded as in you don't want to think like, well, almost like tunnel vision. You just focus on getting better, better. Eventually, what other people think or how you think of other people kind of goes out the window a little bit, because the more you work on the skill, the more confident you get, then you can basically not fit in, but you stand out. You won't have a problem. You basically go fit. So I think emotional intelligence and skill development go hand in hand. I think the skill development will help you recognize when to use emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence will help you navigate certain situations that require the emotional aspect. It's a hard one. I think if I had to put it on a spectrum, I think I'll very narrowly put emotional intelligence a bit higher, because I think that's what my career revolves around.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I'm not there with my skill. If my emotional intelligence is higher, I can handle certain situations a lot more smoother, a lot more comfortably, and help other people make it easier to make them feel more comfortable. Whereas if I was just focused on the coaching aspect and making the players are better, but then if there's certain issues why kids aren't developing or progressing, and I don't have the emotional intelligence to handle that, then I might lose a player there. I might not get the best out of him, or I might talk to a parent differently, or they both go hand in hand. But I think because I'm involved in the people business, I have to have emotional intelligence slightly ranked a little bit higher. I think there's a quote, I think it says I think you progress a lot. If you work alone, you'll only get as far, but if you work together, you'll prosper and thrive. That kind of thing, that idea of workplace community, or just say having a community you can trust and talk to about certain things, especially in the workplace, is so important, because ultimately you're doing this for people, you're working for and with other people, and being able to communicate not only helps you develop your workplace relationship, but also developing relationships with your family, friends, relationships. So I think emotional intelligence is such a big factor across the board, across a lot of the range of jobs that are on.
Yeah, it's not like you said.
No, it's not. Yeah.
You're able to get handle it at work. And other much better.
Yeah.